Story 1. Peacefully in my sleep at 98 years old, right after deleting my browser history and emptying my secret snack drawer. Story 2. My grandpa was 96 years old and still loved swimming every morning. It was his ritual, the thing that kept him feeling young and free. One day, while he was in the water, he had a heart attack. He passed away peacefully in the place he loved most, doing something that brought him joy. It is bittersweet, but I find comfort in knowing he lived life on his own terms. Active, fearless, and true to himself until the very end. Some might see it as tragic, but to me it was a perfect final chapter. Story 3. I choose sudden unwitnessed cardiac arrest in my sleep or on a beach somewhere. There is no chance I will be resuscitated and end up in an intensive care unit. Story 4. If I were terminally ill and my doctor said I only had a few days left to live, I would like to go skydiving without a parachute. It would be fun and quick. Story 5. As painlessly as possible, anywhere but at work. If I get shot at work, I will drag myself across the road to die in the ditch, just so I do not die at work. I have spent too much of my life there. They do not get my death too. Story 6. A coworker said her grandmother finished a bowl of strawberry ice cream, put the spoon down, and died. This is the ideal. Peacefully enjoy, not traumatic to the people around you with no discovery. Story 7. Buried under a pile of enthusiastic young female fans who have rushed the gates at my 280th birthday extravaganza. Story 8. Hypothermia or nitrogen asphyxia. Hypothermia occurs when you stop shivering and feeling anxious. You just feel warm, sometimes so much that you feel the need to undress. Then you get sleepy and do not wake up. With nitrogen, you simply pass out. You do not feel like you are suffocating because your body's suffocation cue is based on the amount of carbon dioxide in your bloodstream, not the presence or absence of oxygen. If nitrogen gas, which is inert, displaces the oxygen in the room, you rapidly lose consciousness. Your "I cannot breathe" response is not triggered, so there is no warning or panic. You just pass out and die of hypoxia. Not in a hurry, though. I would prefer this to happen after I have finished all the things I want to do here, after my children are independent and stable, and I can watch my grandchildren mostly grow up. Ideally, this would occur before my body starts to fail to the point where quality of life rapidly deteriorates. Story 9. The question for me is not how I would like to die, but what I want to be doing when I die. Probably hiking through a forest, ideally a rainforest, relaxing on a tropical island, or even just helping people and making the world a better place. Story 10. I want to be the person the alien spaceship lands on, or have the spaceship miss me but get crushed by the landing gear or fold-out stairs. Story 11. A lot of "in my sleep" posts here. I understand that, but I would prefer to be able to say goodbye. I'm checking out. Love you, it has been fun. To loved ones. From experience, I think the secret is to have that conversation before it happens. Getting old is a gift denied to many people. Story 12. Under a pile of books. In my sleep, I do not want to know it is coming, and no pain would be a good thing. Story 13. I would like to be killed by the Kraken because the last words I would hear would be "release the Kraken." And that never gets old. Dr. Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang Theory. Story 14. Plan a surprise visit to a friend's birthday party outside the country and take an Air India flight to reach there. Story 15. Probably in my 80s or 90s, provided I still have my mind and can mobilize reasonably well, I will just slip away in my sleep after a long, happy life with my loved ones. Story 16. Peacefully in my bed, not in a hospital because I would be full of dread and it would not be pleasant. Story 17. Quick and clean like my great-uncle who died of a heart attack in the shower, but also old and satisfied with his life, like my granddad who died really old and knew the home he bought as a young man was worth a small fortune, but also that his successful, mostly happy children did not desperately need it. Story 18. If it is suicide, jumping off a building. If it is not intentional, then I want a death protecting someone. Or a really gory one. I want to feel something, maybe not that painful. Story 19. I want to walk 18 holes of golf at the age of 79 and shoot my age. As I take my hat off to shake hands when the final putt falls, sneak up and put one behind my ear. Story 20. Hand in hand with my future wife, having lived a long life and ready to pass peacefully together. Neither of us could bear the thought of leaving the other behind, so peacefully passing at the same time is ideal. Story 21. Getting my head cut off somehow. I do not know, so do not ask. I just feel like it. I was also the kind of kid who drew stick figures on paper and then cut off their heads with a paper cutter, so if that tells you anything. Story 22. Decapitation by guillotine sounds brutal, but it is instant, and pain is felt for only a split second. It is much less brutal than the electric chair, stabbing, or lethal injection. Story 23. My ex worked at a nursing home. She witnessed multiple deaths. She once saw a man die while in the middle of taking a bite of pudding. She looked away for 1 second, looked back, and the man was dead. Story 24. Like my grandfather did. He had a visit from his daughter and some of his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. After everyone left except his daughter, he told her, "You know, I had such a wonderful day, and I had a good life. I think I can go now." The following night, he peacefully died in his sleep at the age of 94 years. Story 25. Honestly, my dream death was dying in war beside my battle buddy, knowing someone had my back like knights with swords, while we were covered in armor and holding hands, telling each other how much we hope to meet again in the afterlife. It is odd because I have thought about it many times, and it just sounds right to me. But I would also take dying in my sleep peacefully. Story 26. If I had the choice, firing squad would be one of the quickest, cleanest ways. Second choice is hanging, for the drop. How often do we get to do that? Parachute jumps, bungee cords, not often. Being suspended above the ground would give the dying moment a different texture compared to all the living. Walking around, standing, and sitting. Story 27. Maybe sleeping or some kind of car accident, drowning, or a bar fight. Something not too embarrassing but instant. Story 28. In my sleep. In a comfortable spot with loved ones around as I end my life with assistance, before dying like a fish out of water for weeks on end. Story 29. In the mid-1980s, while I am still active, mobile, reasonably healthy, and have a generally good quality of life, if I absolutely have to die violently, however, J.K. Rowling writing my death scene, Jim Dale narrating it, and Phil Collins singing a modified version of In the Air Tonight about it would be really cool. Story 30. In the hospital at 95 with something soothing in the intravenous bag making me drift off painlessly and quickly. Story 31. In the hands of my lover, sleeping on their chest. With friends all around, talking and laughing. Quick, painless death. Story 32. I have always said I want to live to my 120s and then get killed while trying to stop a bank robbery or something. Story 33. Pain-free and violence-free. Obviously, the opioid epidemic is one of the great horrors of our time, but I can think of a lot worse ways to go than an overdose of fentanyl. Story 34. I would want to go to sleep and not wake up. If I knew I was terminally ill, I would hike deep into the wilderness, many miles from any trail, and give my body back to nature. Story 35. Right now, I feel like I was hit by a car and died on the spot. They would feel guilty about how horrible they are to me. Story 36. To be honest, something that is somehow funny is the man in the retirement home who died trying to make a pickle glow using a power outlet. Story 37. Probably just in my sleep. However, 9-year-old me would choose to die as a James Bond-type spy in a massive explosion after saving the world. Story 38. Dancing to the Grateful Dead is the best way to increase the odds of this happening. Always be dancing to the Grateful Dead. Story 39. At 500 years old, having traveled and experienced the lengths and depths of our solar system and nearby star systems, I finally decide I have seen all life can offer one person. After uploading my mind into the mind hive, I turn off my cybernetic organs and slowly drift into a peaceful, eternal slumber. Story 40. In the hospital surrounded by loved ones sometime in my senior years. I know it seems typical, but that is how I would want to leave this world. Story 41. I would like to never die. If that is not a choice, then at the end of the universe so I can close my eyes and watch the lights go out before I doze off to sleep. Story 42. Richard the Lionheart was dying of sepsis when he ordered his men to bring him 7 women. He had the right idea. Story 43. having plastic explosives surgically implanted inside my stomach. I would then skydive over shark-infested water. When I reach about 1,000 feet, I would detonate the explosive to explode myself over a wide area, allowing the sharks to eat the pieces of me. Story 44. I was looking for this one answer but did not find it, so I am putting it here. In my own bed, at the age of 80, with a belly full of wine and a girl's mouth around my cock. Tyrion Lannister. Story 45. Violently, quickly, and memorably, I have considered two plans. 1. Jump out of a plane with a parachute and remove it during freefall, over a deep forest or the ocean so nobody needs to be inconvenienced by my body, and the local wildlife gets some food as part of the circle of life. 2. Move to the northern Alaska wilderness and live off the land until I am too weak to feed or defend myself, and get eaten by a polar bear, grizzly bear, or wolf. Story 46. I'm asleep, hopefully with loved ones if I have any around. If not, then with my cat next to me. This is where someone makes the hilarious comment about having my eyes and tongue eaten by my cat so he doesn't starve. Story 47. Suffocated by a 20-year-old red-headed cat. I do not care if it is a cat or a vagina, but that is how I am going to die. Story 48. I believe the standard joke answer is, at old age, peacefully, in my sleep, like my grandfather. Not awake and screaming and horrified, like everyone else in his car. But seriously, I want to pass away at an extreme old age, surrounded by family and loved ones, in bed, peacefully. Just slip away, having said something witty a few hours earlier, with a transition so gentle no one notices it for a few minutes. Then I want those near me to have a party to celebrate my passing and to remember me warmly from time to time. Note: none of my grandfathers died in this way. Story 49. For a purpose, not through stupidity. If I am going out, I would like there to be a reason. I have never expected a peaceful death surrounded by family. Story 50. A comet that no one saw coming. In an instant, with no knowledge that I was about to die. At the same moment as when my husband is going to die, so that we do not miss each other. I also heard that if someone is going to die of a disease, kidney disease is the most peaceful death. Because the person becomes very tired and sleeps most of the time, then usually drifts away into the unknown while sleeping. Not that I would want kidney disease or any other disease or accident to happen to myself or anyone else. I am not trying to offend or minimize the suffering of those with kidney disease. Story 51. I hope to arrive late to my death, in love and a little drunk. Atticus. None of us will make it out alive. I would at least like to go happy. Story 52. By assisted suicide, I want to apply for myself and be happy after being granted my death. I want to go out on my terms. Story 53. I hope to die peacefully during sleep at night after a holiday feast. When they come to check on me the next morning, they will find me gone quietly. All my family members will have had a great time already, and they can comfort and support each other. Story 54. Preferably doing something heroic. I think every man to some degree desires to die in combat. Most likely, though, I will die of a heart attack or cancer. Honestly, if I get cancer, I am going to ride it out until it almost has me. Then I will go for one last ride. I will probably get into a high-speed chase on my bike and then find a suitable tree, going out in a blaze of glory. Story 55. Seamless transition of simply not waking up and then being in the afterlife, whatever that entails. It would be nice not to have to experience death. It is not that death is the concern, but the transition itself is something I would rather skip. Maybe that is the neurodivergent side talking. Story 56. After my other half passes away, I would rather deal with the pain of losing her than have her deal with the pain of losing me. As long as I do not have to leave her behind, I do not think I mind how I die. Story 57. Of course, I sleep peacefully. Now, if you ask about my ex, it's something like what happens in a Final Destination movie. Story 58. Just walked into a plumbing job that we have a key for. After I knocked and called the company name, a lady was lying in bed as if she were sleeping, but she looked peaceful. Story 59. Hopefully, after a long life, I just randomly explode. not hurting anyone or anything, just poof, gone. This will ensure that family is not burdened by any funeral expenses. They can just tell people it was time and then move on. Story 60. I want to die suddenly, such as being shot in the back of the head, before my body starts to deteriorate rapidly. Story 61. Helicopter explosion. I die instantly. How cool would that be at the funeral? I'm not an interesting fellow. Story 62. I want to die peacefully in bed while saying to my family, I have hidden 10 million. I never hid 10 million. Story 63. Slowly burning on a small fire pit that I cannot escape. Of course not. Everyone who says anything other than in a great explosion that hurt no one except me is a liar. A big, gigantic, beautiful explosion of something unusual. An explosion that vaporizes you instantly, transforming you into cinders the moment it happens. Story 64. Either trapped under a building that collapses or someone kills me, or in a war I get blown up by a missile or a nuclear weapon. Story 65. I want to take a bath, eat chicken biryani, drink a mild beer, eat chocolate, have some cannabis, and then watch a nice movie or television series. Then I want to sleep peacefully before midnight. I want to drift off to sleep, have a pleasant and slightly confusing dream, and never wake up. I want to die high, confused, and happy in my sleep. I hope someone finds my body soon, at least by the next day. I do not want to leave a mess or traumatize whoever finds me. Story 66. Suddenly, without even realizing it, on a very good day, preferably after everyone I love has already passed. Story 67. However, my daughter did. We still do not know exactly what happened to her, and I would like to experience what she went through, whether good or bad. Story 68. In the arms of my best friend, I do not want to cause him trauma. I just want to pass away while hugging someone I care about, like right now. Story 69. Late in life, I want to be taken out by a bus or semi-truck, something big enough to kill me instantly. I want to see it coming. Story 70. Let's go with anything that is fast as lightning. Multiple sclerosis is slowly killing me. So yeah, let's speed things up a bit. I want to meet God. Story 71. Always wondered where lack of oxygen ranks on the suffering or pain scale, and if it is better or worse than carbon monoxide poisoning in a garage. Story 72. Either by sacrificing myself to save others or peacefully, and without complications at the end of my long life. Story 73. Maybe just disperse into a bunch of sparkles that gradually fade away along with my hearty laughter. Like the ghost of Christmas Present in the Muppet Christmas Carol. Story 74. I want to sleep without bothering anyone and be at home instead of in a hospital bed. I want to be healthy even before dying, not experience sudden death. Story 75. In a fiery battle of death against an overwhelming attack force, like in Lord of the Rings against the Orc army. Or maybe crashing into the Death Star with a dozen TIE fighters on my six, mowing me down with laser cannons. You said, if I had the choice. Story 76. Quietly in my sleep, for sure. I have often pondered the concept of a universal heartbeat and artificial intelligence wiping us all out with a single pulse fluctuation. Story 77. In my mid-30s, I was in a motorcycle crash without anyone being at fault. I want the process to be as fast and painless as possible, but still enough time for me to realize and accept that I am dying, preferably with someone by my side. Story 78. On my feet, screaming defiantly, covered in the blood and viscera of my enemies and the allies I am avenging. Story 79. Based on personal experience, my preference would be a sudden and quick drop in blood pressure. Once I passed out while donating blood because, like an idiot, I hadn't had breakfast that day. Maybe there were other reasons too. Who knows? Anyway, it felt like I was peacefully drifting off to what was going to be the best sleep of my life. I suddenly understood those scenes in movies where they try to keep the injured person awake. Felt so good to close my eyes and just go away. This was interrupted a moment later when I suddenly woke up and had 4 or 5 doctors standing around me, and I had completely forgotten where I was or what was going on. I never asked, but I assume I received an adrenaline shot or something. A friend later said it looked like the Hulk waking up on a gurney. So yeah, low blood pressure, exsanguination, whatever is available at the time. Story 80. I want to know that I am loved and will be remembered for the good I have done. I would love to know that I was someone's idea of enough. Then a large amount of pain medication to finish me off. Ask warm and fuzzy like. Story 81. Like my beloved cat last month. Embraced by my most loved companion in my favorite spot in the world and put to sleep peacefully after a kiss on the forehead. Story 82. Peacefully in my sleep as an old man in a perfect world. But that is no fun. So let us go with my untimely demise. I would choose a submarine implosion like the OceanGate explorers died in. That happened so instantaneously that I would not even know it happened, let alone feel any pain. 1 millisecond I am there. The next millisecond I no longer exist. Story 83. I want to be awake and feel it. It is the last thing you can feel, so you might as well feel it. Ideally, I could describe it as it happens to someone. Story 84. Whatever way allows my family to sue for money, whether it is the town's fault or medical negligence. I don't really care as long as my kids are taken care of. Story 85. Of an increasingly large morphine or heroin overdose while I am in virtual reality. I can imagine exploring a new level in VR chat or working around my base in No Man's Sky when I realize I am feeling warm, comfortable, and very sleepy. Story 86. We had an amazing 98th birthday for my grandmother. I picked her up from the assisted living facility and drove her to the event hall. She had family and friends there. We played her favorite music and served many of her favorite foods and treats. We digitized many of her old movies my grandfather had taken over the years and played them on a big screen. We stayed well past her bedtime when I brought her back to her facility. She talked happily the entire way back, telling me how wonderful her day was. The staff told us she shared with everyone she met the good time she had the next day. 2 days later, we received the phone call that she had passed away. She was resting in her favorite chair after lunch when her heart gave out. After the shock, we all agreed she went to meet her husband again, with a smile on her face. I would want a farewell like that. Story 87. For a guy with a reputation as one of the hardest partying men ever in rock, I wouldn't mind going out like Harry Nielsen. Lying next to his wife in his bed at his home. He farted, made a joke, and died in his sleep. At least, that's the story I remember from the documentary about him. His wife told it. Story 88. Regardless of my age or the pain level of my death, my only wish is to be surrounded by loved ones, so that I can tell them how much they mean to me and how much I love them before I have to go. I do not want them to ever worry about what my last words would have been if I died alone. I want them to know everything will be okay, even when I am gone, and that I am proud of them. Story 89. Have a chocolate strawberry banana crepe. Watch a show. Doze off from the sugar high and not wake up. Story 90. I want to be old. I just do not want to be a burden to anyone. If possible, I would like to be able to drive, take care of myself, and not be in a constant state of pain or stress. Other than that, make it quick and painless. Story 91. Crashing a fighter jet into a mountain peak at top speed, while peaceful music plays in my headset, and I am eating a burrito. Story 92. Not dreaming of living until 80. After spending my middle age doing whatever I desire, I will then die painlessly. Story 93. Very quickly and painlessly with someone I love. This is weird, but when I am old, maybe an accident of some sort that would result in a painless, quick death. Story 94. Quickly and painlessly. However, due to my clumsiness and how often I lose my vision when I do things such as standing up too fast, I will probably die by falling into a pit or off a cliff while temporarily blind. Story 95. Hit by a Japanese bullet train and sent flying into a helicopter, then hitting a massive bonfire on the way back down. Story 96. A mass extinction event that eliminates nearly all living organisms simultaneously. If I do not survive, neither does anyone else. Story 97. If peacefully in my sleep is out of stock, can I get one of those fighting off the enemy in a last stand situation instead? Otherwise, I will just take one Sky King, please. Story 98. Old, but still functional. My son is stable and happy. Beautiful summer's day. I kiss my good lady goodbye, look her in the eye, and tell her I love her. She tells me to enjoy myself. I say the usual, I always do, and take a trip out on my motorbike. Head up north. Weather is good. Traffic is light. Stop at my usual first pit stop for a vape and a coffee. I greet the locals and tourists and listen to some music while taking in the scenery. Some kid says, "Nice bike." I throw a thumbs up and say, "Cheers, mate. I have ridden this road 1,000 times." Mixed feelings of a youth lost, but comforting nostalgia. I stop to call my son and find out how his day went. Maybe he has a wife, a family. In any case, he is happy. All is well. I give him my love and bid him goodbye. Head further north through Inverary and up through Glencoe towards Oban. Weather is warm, but the air keeps me cool. The bike is running great. I open the throttle for that old buzz. I am far past my best days, but I never lost the excitement. As I pass the stunning scenery, I have that serene, calm feeling of bliss and balance. All is right. All is well. I briefly close my eyes and take in the clear Scottish air one last time. Then, suddenly, a meteorite hits me out of nowhere, blowing me to smithereens. A 5 billion-year-old chunk of ancient, primordial nickel iron hits me directly at hypersonic speeds, vaporizing me and erasing me from existence at orbital speeds. I exit this world at 90 miles per hour in a pink mist of superheated blood and body parts. I am identified only by my bike's chassis number. No one's fault. No one's burden. A freak accident predetermined at the formation of the solar system. That would be pretty nice. Story 99. I don't think I care too much either way because the end result is the same whether there is pain or not beforehand. I don't want to reach an age where I need assistance with things like using the toilet or eating, or where I no longer have control over my own mind. That is a worse fate to me than any kind of death, like a long-term dying before the actual event. Story 100. I want to wake up at 3 a.m. thinking I am late for something. I then feel pure bliss realizing I have plenty of time left to sleep, then pass back into my sleep. Story 101. In the primary sphere of a nuclear explosion, suddenly there is nothing but a shadow. It is so fast you would not know anything about it. Story 102. I want to know what is happening, and I want it to be a spectacle. A massive car crash, plane crash, a terrible tumble down some public stairs. Blood everywhere, people screaming. Story 103. Protecting my students from a terrorist attack, killing the attacker, and dying from my wounds after I get to say goodbye in the hospital. Story 104. Like the characters in the movie Don't Look Up, who held hands with their loved ones or shared intimate moments as the world faced destruction. Story 105. I would like to die in my sleep after putting all my things in order. I expect it to be at around 89 years of age if I am lucky. Realistically, I hope it is not too painful. Story 106. Death by bears. Not mauling. Slowly led to insanity by being read terms and agreement contracts by polar, grizzly, black, and Kodiak bears, all arguing over which dialect of growl to use. Story 107. I have already planned it. I am going to die on April 27th by jumping off Beachy Head in the United Kingdom, a 550-foot drop. This is not a joke. Story 108. In some difficult situation, like Richard Pryor's father died. Now men, if you have a choice of dying in a difficult situation or getting hit by a bus, which line are you going to be in? I know which line I am going to be in, that long one. Story 109. Ever since I was a young child, I wanted to die in a volcano by jumping into one. I do not know what is wrong with me. Story 110. Either very interestingly, like fighting someone cool but then losing and getting shot, or being old and knowing I fulfilled my life and dying of old age. Story 111. Aged 100, having just crossed the finish line in my final half marathon. No, that is unrealistic. A 10-kilometer race would do. Story 112. Peacefully and also leaving peace behind me. I would not want to be a burden for my family even after my death. Story 113. Overdose of heroin, 82 years old, on a Wednesday evening just after dinner. It would have to be like my third time trying to establish a new Wednesday routine. That or a sniper headshot on a sunny day. Story 114. I want my death to be like going under anesthesia. I just slip away into nothingness while feeling really nice. Story 115. 1. Find people on the dark web who would help commit a complex crime. 2. Buy a jester costume. 3. Break into a circus tent and climb inside the cannon. 4. Enjoy the experience. Story 116. I would like to leave quickly, around 12:52. I am fine and breathing. Time of death, 12:53. No suffering. I would not want to live long either. 90 years is a long time. Story 117. Just like my grandfather, who died peacefully in his sleep. His screaming passengers had a different experience, however. Story 118. I would choose to die from an enemy-thrown grenade in World War III. We all know it is happening. Story 119. Bleeding in a snowy forest after telling the love of my life to save herself from the evil forest monster that I held off with everything I had. Story 120. I am torn between death by intimate interaction and gunshot to the heart. Also, I do not want to die by being torn in half. Story 121. I want to die slowly and feel the bliss of dying. I want to die helping somebody. Most of all, I want to die with somebody I love. Story 122. I'm listening to an audiobook. There's this part where one person is asking 3 others how they would like to die. Please no spoilers for those who know. One said nitrogen intoxication, one said heroin, and the other said a gun. If it were me, if I'm gonna die, I'd like to go out with a bang, figuratively, more like a thud or splat. I'd like to dive off a beautiful mountain with a wingsuit, glide for a while before hitting a rock face head-on at high speed. I have never done it, never skydived even. I have only rock climbed up to about 200 feet. I hear it's a high-risk activity with an already high mortality rate. Story 123. Any way that is not painful. Even a nuclear annihilation would not be bad. There would not even be time to react. As for my least desirable death, suffocation and freezing in the vacuum of space or being eaten alive. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.